That's my site. I run ohmTown.com. I guess I'm just going to cut out all of the other stuff. I used to describe what ohmTown was, or is, I should say. But I've said this now. Looking at the watch, that doesn't really tell me how many episodes I've had. I'm just shy of 100, so I think tomorrow is my 100th. In fact, let me make sure. No, today is my 100th episode. Not much to be, ranting and raving about. I I didn't advertise it, and I didn't hype it up, and not many people are in my chat. But for those of you that are here, thank you very much. Something weird about Twitch is that it shows a larger number than what might actually be here, or I'm not sure how it really works. But anyway, I'm doing this every day. The time may change now because I'm looking at stats, I'm looking at data I had before, but I didn't want to really give it that much credence, mainly because it didn't play well with my schedule. But this summer, I'm going to be streaming a lot more throughout the day. Sometimes games, sometimes news. I'll be spinning up additional shows for about 90 days. I'll be doing 90 days of additional content starting this summer. What comes of it, I don't know. It's going to be throughout the day that I do news. The daily news show may shift to the morning based on the previous 24 hours, just like it is now. But if you are listening to this, you would do a great service to let me know what you think of it. Would you want the news to be more towards the morning instead of at the end of the day when you get home from work on the East Coast? That's where this is. That's where my show starts, right? So 6 p.m. Eastern, runs for an hour. So depending on the time zone, it's either tomorrow morning, and you're not getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to sit here and watch me on ohmTown Daily News Show. Whatever the case may be, my market is global, although I do have quite a bit of U.S. centric news. Based on the metrics, based on the data, I don't know if people are talking about this in other channels, but apparently on Twitch, the best day to stream so that you have discoverability is Sunday between midnight and 9 a.m. I'm not sure how that really holds true. I mean, it's a US based company. It has a pretty dominating US presence, so I suppose that's one of the main drivers. But Sunday between 12 and 9 is the best day to stream. From there, it slowly ramps up population, culminating with a Friday, Saturday peak, and Sunday peak, actually. But it just seems kind of interesting to look at this data. I'm really curious. Are you interested in a show that's during between 12 and 9 a.m.? I don't know if other people talk about it, but I thought that I'd lob that out there. The news is still dominated by politics, largely vitriolic politics. People inflamed with each other instead of having discourse like what I'm trying to do here on Twitch, talking about the news, drawing some attention to some news segments. But let's get into it. Let's see what comes of this. The very first article is over at the Continuity Report, and it is about Fantastic Beasts 3. Ignites to soft 58 million at international box office ahead of US debut. So here in the States, this movie, The Secrets of Dumbledore, is set to launch on the 15th. Elsewhere it launched, and I'm not sure why it didn't launch around the world at once, but I don't know. Licensing, as it were. This article is over at Variety, written by Rebecca Rubin. 58 million isn't a bad deal. The amount of money spent on the budget, though, I don't know. Probably more than 58 million. I didn't look into what it cost to make or what the budget was for. Let's find out. Let's find out right now. Let's see. So the budget was 200 million. So yeah, it's falling a little shy right out of the gate, but that's only the debut other than the United States. I'm not sure where all it played, but it says here, granted the sequel was playing in 79 countries, whereas the threequel won't have a footprint that wide until next weekend, when The Secrets of Dumbledore arrives in 44 additional markets, including France, Italy, Korea, Brazil, and Mexico. Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore also opens next weekend in North America. Not sure why they separated that as a sentence, but there you go. Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore welcomed the biggest start in China with 10 million, a notable decline from its franchise predecessors. The comparison, The Crimes of Grindelwald, opened to 36 million in 2016. Oh, in China, and 2016's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them kicked off with 40 million. But hate to break it to you, yeah, the very next sentence is what I was about to say, which was COVID-19 is still crushing China, even with everybody saying that it's handled. No, it's not handled. But let's give this time. I will probably not go to a movie theater to watch this and instead wait for it to hit iTunes and just buy it there. That's what big screen TVs are all about. And then at least I can sit and have food and drink and turn it up however loud I want it and enjoy it with my family and friends if I want friends over. I may just want to sit on my couch and not worry about it. And there's always, the people with home theaters. But let's continue on. I don't want to get bogged down. And I want to get all of these headlines to you so that you can go over and read them. Be sure to go over and read them at Variety for this one. So this next one is why Condé Nast staffers are unionizing. Prestige doesn't pay the bills. What does it mean when the labor movement is embraced by the so-called media elite? Let's click this link and take you over to New York Times. This article is written by Gina Belafonte. And it says here, on an August night in 1999, roughly 800 guests traveled by boat from Lower Manhattan to gather at the Statue of Liberty for an event to celebrate the debut of Talk Magazine, the new venture from celebrated editor Tina Brown. The party quickly took on a mythic distinction in the city's social history as fin de what? Sacré assemblage of those who mattered. Okay. Huh. When print media still had a cachet to make those determinations, Madonna was there. So too were Michael Eisner, Queen Latifah, Kate Moss, Tom Brokaw. All right. The uninvited needed years to recover. Society had long been supplanted by an elite made up of political and creative talent that suggested a new age. but merely perpetuated the old one. This is a very flowery article. What does it mean when the labor movement is embraced by the so-called media elite? I'm trying to get to the article's nuts and bolts, as it were. Because, like I say, I don't read this prior to. I want my reaction here in the stream to be identical to what you might be witnessing when you're reading the article. My particular perspective really is more holistic and not really one that's focused on this sector. But this is a lot of flowery stuff here. That the change in mentality was contingent on, among other factors, a generational shift nursed by the heyday of neoliberalism with an aversion to earnestness. The mindset of a cosmopolitan Generation X made little room for labor interests and imagined that unions were for people who carried lunch pails. Let's see here. The paragraph above that paragraph says, a spokesman for Condé Nast declined to address specific grievances, but said, quote, we plan to have productive and thoughtful conversations with them over the coming weeks to learn more. Okay. So in a moving video laying out the need for collective action, writers, editors, social media managers, graphic artists, fashion assistants, and researchers explained that they were fed up and burned out, and they were seeking overtime compensation for relentless hours, pay transparency, and salary floors, which previously unionized colleagues at the New Yorker obtained last year. They worried about layoffs without severance and meetings where minority representation was often amounted to the presence of a single person in the room. Okay, so in all of this article, that right there, that paragraph pretty much embodies what's been going on, and not just here. To me, it has nothing to do with when the media elite embrace prestige doesn't pay the bills, that kind of thing. That's a statement that was made apparently somewhere in this by someone, maybe even in this moving video. But this paragraph embodies what I have been saying over the last 90 days on the stream and what I've been talking about with people for several years now. People are tired of the status quo between employer and employee. Wages aren't increasing, yet salaries for the C-suite and for upper management skyrockets. The gears, the actual people that are tasked, I should say, not supposed to be tasked, but are tasked with doing the work by leadership, while leadership does something administrative and not necessarily the same level of work, are making more and getting more bonuses and getting further ahead. Now, when you talk to people that are in the, let's say, 3 different strata, you've got the executive suite, you've got the administrative suite, and you have the working class. Those at the bottom are expected to make their bones to get into the administration. The administration is saying, I did my work, and I try not to cuss, but the phrase shit rolls downhill is basically the administrative perspective. And the C-suite is, we're the ones that are guiding. We've already done administrative and we've already done working class. So now is our time to shine as the C-suite. We have the liability nowadays. Previous generations of C-suite did not, in most part. Signing on the form that they understand that they're liable for certain things really amounts to nothing. They'll get a golden parachute and bow out before they actually get prosecuted for anything. The working class, they'll be thrown in jail. The administrators, they'll get fired and maybe their reputation gets hit for poor performance. But in a nutshell, that is the status quo. The working class barely makes a ton of money. The administrators make quite a bit more. And then the C-suite gets 4,000 times what the working class makes. Is that always the case? No. But workers are tired of the disparity between everything above them, perceived as above them, and their reality of compensation. Again, do some people make a ton of money? Yeah. But the place that you make a ton of money also costs a lot to get that ton of money. So if you're working in New York and you're making a ton of money, you're paying an arm and a leg for the cost of living in New York. Same thing with LA, same thing with San Francisco. Those are also the anomalies to the status working, the standard working class person around the United States. It gets more complex, or maybe different perspective in other countries, but the same thing exists there. The powers that be abuse their power, demanding greater and greater margins while telling everybody that makes it happen, this is how little you're making, and you should be happy that you have a job at all. Again, I reach into the bottle of sociopathy for you to make that statement as an employer, judging them, yet you have compensation packages that are 4,000 times higher than the quote unquote grunt that has to do the work. You're literally creating the dynamic of, I'm tired of being your employee, I'm going to go somewhere else. And now we're unionizing. The working class is unionizing because of the abuse. If we would have been treated right all this time, we wouldn't union. We wouldn't form a union because we wouldn't need to. But we are trending back towards the formerly bygone age of companies where they paid with their own currency and sold items that are made by the company, sold in company stores, only would accept company money, and you got paid with company money so that you could go to those stores. You were literally an indentured servant, except you got a stipend. So there were companies then, there are companies now that are motivated to do that. That's why unions are, it's literally fighting for survival. Employees are fighting for their survival. Because when inflation comes chasing after people who are trying to get ahead, the people with the least will suffer the most at the hands of those who benefited from the disparity in power. Yet society thinks that that is okay. It is the status quo. It has always been for time immemorial is the argument. This is how it's always been done. Well, it doesn't need to be. We don't have to be a sociopathic society. But let's continue on. The next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel, The Digital Health Ecosystem, an in-depth examination of the players and tech trends reshaping the future of healthcare. So this is a Business Insider Intelligence article. Typically, this is tied to their research arm, which is a premium service. So when I click this link, it'll probably be taking us to a document that you have to subscribe to get. But it says digital disruption is rocking the healthcare industry, and key stakeholders, payers, providers, manufacturers, and the medical supplies distributors are all feeling its effects differently. Until now, healthcare was the only remaining industry that had yet to feel the rapid impact of digitization endured by retail, banking, and media. However, consumer adoption of digital tech, regulatory overhauls, and shifting reimbursement models are forcing healthcare players' hands. So, this article is over at businessinsider.com. And again, like I said, it's made by Insider Intelligence, is the section that this is tied to. So they talk about global fintech M&A activity. Fintech and medical tech are not the same. So don't think that this graph here actually has anything really to do with medical tech. So let's scroll down here and see. These are some of the players in it. Fintech company landscape. I'm going to keep on scrolling down here. You can take a look at all of this. These are just players in this industry. And I think that, let me scroll back up. I think that they've changed their link. But the Insider Intelligence is one of their more privileged resources. I'll continue on, and I'll look for another solution for my aggregator. Hello, good morning. It's actually evening for me. What are time zones? I always joke about that because sometimes when I'm watching somebody stream and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, for me, it's 2 o'clock in the morning for them, and they're about to sign off. And that's kind of like Dunkster and others. I watch a whole group of people that do their shows really late at night. They start at 10 p.m. my time. They're here in the States, and they go all the way until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock the next morning, depending on how driven they are. So, but hey, Brildine, I think that you have been streaming quite a bit. Maybe it's just something that I see the tail end of it, really, and don't get a chance really to jump in there for any real amount of time. But it's good to see you here. Thanks for coming. Let me look at something real quick. Yeah. So if there's anything interesting that you want to talk about, go for it. Let me know. I'm going to rifle through the news, and we'll continue with chatting if you are also motivated. Yeah, it's tomorrow, right? Where you are, it's Monday morning. So this next article is over in Stock Marketeers from The Moneyest. Enough touchscreen tipping already. I'm over it. 2 years into COVID. Do I have to tip for coffee, ice cream, and takeout? Am I being cheap? So this person here, this article, it says the online order service request a tip. Am I supposed to now tip before I pick up my own food? Click the link. It'll take me over to Market Watch. It's an article that's written by Quentin Fotrell. And this is The Moneyest. So the ethics and etiquette of your financial affairs. Now, etiquette and ethics, I'm not quite sure how they leverage this in relation to financial affairs, but all right. I don't know. The reason why I say it like that is because it doesn't make any sense to me. The etiquette and ethics of your financial affairs, it's treating it as if you should be treating money as some separate entity from being a human, and being able to distance yourself from being a holistic human. Whereas this kind of makes you think, at least to me, it makes you think, oh, well, if it's about money, then I can be a complete disembodied person and say, well, it has to do with money, so screw you. I'm not going to tip, or I'm not going to have a heart and donate some money to your cause, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I actually saw somebody say, why should I donate if I can't write it off? And I was flabbergasted by that conversation. Sometimes you just want to walk away. But you continue to have this conversation. Well, you donate because you think it's a good cause, not necessarily because you have the ability to reduce your taxable income. Apparently, depending on who you are, that's not true. You don't do it unless you can write it off on your taxes. And yeah, so depending on where you are, right, Realdane, that's correct. Depending on where you are, tipping really isn't a thing, because the people that are providing services are actually getting paid a livable wage. Yeah, it's a shocker, I know. But here in the States, people get tipped because they are actually being paid less than a minimum wage. That there is a minimum wage, but it's below. People who are surviving on tips are getting paid below the minimum wage, and it's allowed because they are expected to get tips by the population that they serve. And depending on where you work, you can make 6 digits a year. Pretty well. Ease of that is subjective. You have to be pretty strong-willed to work in food service. I wouldn't be able to survive, for instance. It's not in my nature to do food service when what I really want to do is just hang out and talk with the customers about their day and what they're up to, and getting to know people. I was horrible at it. I had done it, but it's just not really in my nature to be successful in food service. So this person writes a letter to the moneyest at MarketWatch and says, I recently bought an ice cream cone at a nearby parlor. It's a big name joint, and I won't name it here, but suffice it to say you can pay up to $8 for a carryout cone or a cup. The line is out the door, especially in the evening. At lunchtime, I like to buy fish sandwiches with chips and iced tea. Wow, this person has it's a text-based version of an Instagram photo of what they had for lunch and breakfast. That's pretty amazing that they have this ability to write it out. Anyway, so it says if you order online, they usually have lunch ready for you when you get there. Online order service requests a tip. Am I a bad person? Am I supposed to now tip before I pick up my own food? I already tipped the delivery workers. Honestly, it's up to you. Me, I like doing it. I like tipping because it gives them more money. The people that are doing the work, I don't have to clean anymore. If they don't tip, then the price really needs to go. The real true price for those items needs to be represented there so that the person that's making the food and everything associated with it is right there in what I'm paying for, so that the person who is serving me when I show up is getting their full wage. It really depends. If the people who are doing this are actually getting paid a full minimum wage, then there's no tipping that should be done. But if somebody's driving to your place, then tipping should be done. But I don't know about tipping fatigue. Nowadays, I tip during a pandemic because there are people that are actually going into work and making food for me so that I can swing by and pick it up. I still don't have to worry about cleaning. I still don't have to worry about cooking. I'll pay 15, 18, 20% more. So it's really on the person. Let's see. So gross that to earn less than minimum wage? Yes, I agree. That honestly should not be on the general public, but on the employers. Yes, I agree that too. I think everybody should get a livable wage for the service, commensurate with the service that they provide. Honestly, not everybody is going to make $65,000 a year. It depends on the value of the worker to the enterprise, and they can't pay somebody 65,000. And see, in the United States, it's a different wage, right? So different people, different places. Cultural relativism is what it's called. So depending on where you are, the valuations are different. But I think everybody should get minimum wage, and nobody should get anything below it ever without any, there shouldn't be any context to it. If you're in food service and once tips were in existence, now get rid of tips and pay them the wage that allows them to work there without having to rely on tips. The problem, though, is that there are some people that would rather get tips because they crush it and people respect that, and tips are still something that they want. I think that it should be a minimum wage and tipping should still be allowed. Not that there's no tipping, but it's just additional benefit from me. Yep. Yeah. And there's no way that that will ever happen here in the States. Pardon me. So I'm going to continue on because it's an interesting article to go and read, but it really comes down to the fact that there are some people that hate tipping. There are some people that use it as a means to drive some political message. I've been told stories about people who have written a message on a folded dollar bill. Sometimes it has religion attached to it. Sometimes it's an evaluation of your service as a food service provider. It's just kind of either you do it or you don't. And it's really up to you. It's odd that somebody would actually write in, but that's, again, me. The next article is about Apple. Over in the Smack Talk channel, Apple's mixed reality headset may appear in iOS 16 betas. Apple's long-anticipated mixed reality headset has the potential to launch before the summer of 2023. It is rumored, with references to the hardware expected to appear in betas for iOS 16. If you're not into Apple products, then this is probably not of interest to you. But if you're interested in augmented reality or virtual reality, this may interest you, and it might move you over to Apple because their ecosystem is so tightly integrated to each other. It makes working with additional products all but seamless. I can walk into a room that has one of the HomePod speakers, and I can just throw my music onto the HomePod. Wherever it is, I can use an intercom system that's powered by the HomePod to broadcast a message across the house so that people can come to me, be it for dinner or to watch a movie or have a chat or whatever it might be. I can control all of my lights because of HomeKit. There are other solutions in other platforms, but all of it is so tightly integrated that it makes it seamless. Now, with mixed reality glasses, I'd be able to throw that information up onto my glasses. And it would make life for me that much easier because I wouldn't have to take my phone out to do certain things. It really depends on the full scope of what this augmented reality headset is going to provide. And if it's something that is just a simple pair of glasses like so, or if it's a VR headset that is going to wobble around on my head as if I'm carrying around a Mac Mini on the top of my head. We'll see. I'm hoping that it comes out and that it's reasonably priced. I'm guessing it's going to be $1,000 right out of the gate. I think that whatever it is that's going to come out of Apple for their AR VR headset, it's going to be $1,000 minimum. And it's going to be just a very specific thing. You'll have to get additional stuff to make it even more powerful. So, Brilding says, Apple just goes the distance. I don't know if you want me to read this kind of stuff on the stream. It's in the chat, and it gets presented in the stream, but this does get turned into a podcast. So let's see, like this MacBook Pro I'm on right now, 13 years old, and still crushing it, I'm sure. I had a MacBook Pro from 2015, the last of the generation of MacBook Pros where you could pull certain parts out and replace them with aftermarket. And that thing sold for the very price that I bought it at, because it was in perfect condition and everything. I mean, it was just amazing. So yeah, it maintained its price. It maintained its quality. It never went dead. Everything just was always perfect with it. Every Apple device I've ever had, it's always been like that. Whereas my Windows machines, my Windows laptops, et cetera, eventually something fails. Ultimately something fails. Now, I am an anomaly because I know that there are a lot of Apple products that fail for people and are met with, well, you're just going to have to get a new one. Well, there are certain internet personalities that take advantage of this to draw attention to the fact that Apple doesn't have a right to repair type policy. And while I am a fan of right to repair, it's a little more complex than just, oh yeah, go ahead and repair whatever you want, because the issue becomes, if the repair fails, it becomes a forensic audit of why it failed when the house burns down. And you have to hunt down the reason why. The investigator says, well, the fire started with this Apple device. That's how it gets presented. Now, has it happened? I don't know. It's just a scenario that I use when I'm talking about this. But don't get me wrong, I am a fan of right to repair. I think that things should be able to be repaired at a reasonable price. You should be able to access your device at a reasonable price. But you don't get ultra thin, you don't get ultra light, you don't get ultra capable by having nuts and bolts everywhere. We will see what happens with this next product, but we know historically that Apple devices aren't very user serviceable. The outrage with that flies in the face of the fact that people are clamoring for Apple devices. So is it really a problem, or is it a few people are really upset about not being able to repair it their particular way? I think it's more about a loud local few or vocal few than the entirety of the Apple community, because people would stop buying Apple products if it was a serious issue. Anyway, let's go over to this article because I never even clicked on the link. This is a Apple Insider article written by Malcolm Owen, and this is a render of what they might say is the mixed reality headset. I hope that it doesn't look like this. I hope that it's something a little bit more stylish and not so bulky. I hope it's more like a pair of glasses than a full-on headset like this. You can't easily get broad spectrum accessibility out of regular glasses that have augmented reality capabilities, not without looking more like Google Glasses, which was basically just a little lens hovering in space. But I hope that it isn't basically the eye versions of the AirPods, you know, the big headset from Apple. Let's see here. It says an In outlining what to expect from WWDC, Mark Gurman's Power On newsletter from Bloomberg, or for Bloomberg, touches upon the mixed reality headset. While it was apparently planned by Apple to be launched during the developer event, Gurman believes a launch could instead take place towards the end of 2022 or in early 2023. They may announce it during WWDC, but it probably won't come out until there's some more supply chain issues resolved, because one of their core suppliers just got shut down again in China due to COVID. So let's continue on. The next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. And a streaming company is looking to pay someone $2,400 to watch a 24-hour true crime marathon and post about it on social media. If you're a true crime junkie, Magellan TV has a job for you. The documentary streaming service will pay one fan $100 an hour to watch a true crime marathon and post about it on social media. And here's how interested viewers can apply. I'm going to click the link so that I can take you straight over to it. This is a BusinessInsider.com article written by Sarah Jackson. And let's see if I can find them. Well, there's the job post. So MagellanTV.com/true-watch-dream-job. That's interesting. So if you want to make $100 an hour and watch something nonstop for 24 hours and then post about it. So let's see here. This is what the quote is for the job listing. Our ideal candidate lives for true crime. They can handle the most menacing serial killer, the goriest details, and don't flinch at the chilling paranormal, the company said in a job post. Quote, and they love it so much that they're willing to stream it nonstop for 24 hours. Along with watching, they'll be documenting their true crime all-nighter on social media so everyone will see if they can hack it or not. But somehow, I think that what is going to happen is there's going to be somebody that the person that's picked is going to be kind of a sleeper hit. You know, they're right on the verge of being discovered, or they are already neatly discovered, and this just allows them to leverage a little bit more viral presence. Because there's a couple of things here, right? A 24-hour true crime stream, and then the social media aspect of it. They're not going to hire me because I'm literally unheard of. There's a website that allows you to find people who are streaming to an audience of very few. I said 0 at one point, but I don't know if it's always 0. But you can go over there. So, Brill, go check it out. I honestly would have applied if someone wasn't already picked. I don't think anybody's been picked. The company has picked out the shows that will make up the watchathon. They include episodes of shows like Murder Maps, Behind Bars, and Murder on the Internet. The job is advertised as a 24-hour gig. The winner will actually have 48 hours to complete it after checking off everything on the watch list. The chosen candidate will get $100 an hour for a total of $2,400. Pretty cool, huh? So 100 runner-ups will also get a free membership for a year. Go check it out. Okay, let's scroll up. So there's the link. You can go and check it out and sign up. And then maybe all of us can watch you doing this. Wonder if you could do it on Twitch. If you can stream you on Twitch watching a service do a 24-hour stream, get really meta into this, and post about it on social media. It's like a win-win-win there. Go for it. This next article is in the Breaking Prose. If you are a writer or you know of somebody who's an aspiring writer, this article, story elements, 7 main elements of a story and 5 elements of plot. This website is one of the ones that I don't have any tie to them, but I use them when I am referencing writing, when I'm talking to people about various domains, typically publishing. And so in this, they have these helpful segments. This one is Crystal N. Craker from prowritingaid.com. And they go over what the elements are. So what are the 7 literary elements? Plot, tone, theme, setting, conflict, characters, point of view. Characters, setting, theme, tone. And they talk about it. Point of view, conflict, plot. What are the 5 elements of plot? Exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, and slash denouement. It's resolution, basically recovery. And they go into the various definitions of it and the additional context of it. If you are a writer or an aspiring writer or even considering it, then you should go over to prowritingaid.com and check out the entire site. I won't go over it all, but it definitely gets you thinking and can even assist you in breaking out of writer's block, because you'll be thinking about a more technical aspect of it that's blocking creativity, or something creative on the site that breaks you away from being hyper focused on the technical aspects of it. There's something that has to break you out of whatever mode you're stuck in. And my discussions with other writers and publishers have led to me having this belief that there are really 2 main things that you get stuck in. And that's either you're stuck in the creative because there's something there that's blocking you, so you should focus on the technical, and that will allow you to break away from not being able to think about the creative. So you basically say, okay, well, if I can't be creative about it, then I'll be technical, and then I can rewrite, and vice versa. Everything is just a mishmash of gibberish, and there's no flow, and there's no proper form. Well, let's go look at the proper main elements of a story. I'm not an expert in the field. That's just my opinion of things. Take it for what it is, just my opinion. So this next article, let's continue on, is in the continuity report. The box office results: Sonic 2 booms to 71 million. Michael Bay's ambulance stalls. And it says here, Sonic the Hedgehog powered to 71 million in its domestic box office debut, a hopeful indication that family audiences are feeling better about returning to theater. In taking the #1 spot, Paramount's kid-friendly film towered over Sony's Marvel adaptation Morbius and Universal's Michael Bay action-adventure Ambulance, which debuted to a disappointing 8. Hey, congratulations, I wish you luck. But Twitch was the only casting service it didn't want to know about. Oh no. Yeah, that's too bad. That's really too bad. Yeah, maybe it's going to be too meta for them. They want, because they're the streaming service, they don't want necessarily to be aligned with another streaming service. There's a lot of licensing and rights and stuff like that. And exclusivity, the concepts of exclusivity kind of also weigh. Who knows? Maybe the person that put it together just doesn't really acknowledge Twitch, which is too bad. I mean, on any given day, I think there's something like 2 million people that are on Twitch. watching various shows. So, and the shows are you. Hey, you never know. I think you have a chance. Um, so they talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which oddly enough got some really good hype because of the first Sonic the Hedgehog and Jim Carrey. Um, and then it launched again, and there was Jim Carrey popped up into mainstream media, um, and now he's bowing out of movies. Um, I haven't seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I saw the first one, but I do know that in comparison to Morbius, uh, all families are going to go and watch Sonic the Hedgehog before they go and watch Morbius or Ambulance. There's zero discussion about Ambulance, so I'm not surprised that um, them landing on this weekend represented a good return on that first box office, domestic box office. Let's click the link. It'll take us over to Variety, and this is an article by Rebecca Rubin. And let's see. The first movie collected $58 million in its first 3 days of release and ended the President's Day holiday weekend with a mighty $70 million. Overseas, Sonic followed up, adding $37 million from 53 territories, taking its international tally to 70 and global to $141 million. So the very first one is already half of its predecessor's global total. Not bad. Not bad at all. And they learned so much from the previous version that they didn't make any derps on Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So it says Sonic the Hedgehog continues a box office hot streak for Paramount, marking the studio's fourth movie in 2022 to open in first place. The others were The Lost City, which I don't think I've seen yet. Scream, which I haven't seen. Jackass Forever, which I've never seen any of the Jackass movies. So I don't get anything out of that type of humor, as a matter of fact. It's a needed rebound since Paramount largely stepped back from theatrical releases during the pandemic and instead selling titles like Aaron Sorkin's courtroom drama, The Trial of the Chicago Seven, Eddie Murphy's comedy sequel, Coming to America. That's the sequel to Coming to America. And Michael B. Jordan's action thriller Without Remorse to streaming services. True. People built out their houses. They built home theaters, big or small, so that they didn't have to go out and possibly contract COVID. So I will probably wait for this to hit Apple iTunes, and I'll just purchase it and watch it in the comfort of my home. So let's continue the next article. If you are listening to this in the podcast and you haven't heard about it yet, or if you've missed previous episodes, Elon Musk purchased almost 10% of the outstanding shares of Twitter and got a board seat. There's some policy and procedural breaches that took place to acquire that almost 10%. And some discussion that also took place that violates some policy and procedure. But like I said in a previous episode, if you are filthy rich, then rules are really just a nuisance that get in the way. Believe me, if I get pulled over for speeding, then I have a really good chance of ending up in jail. But if you're a billionaire and you get pulled over for speeding, people will ask you to roll down your window. They'll see who you are and they'll go, "Oh my God, it's Elon Musk. See you later. Go send some rockets into space." So everybody is equal. Some people are more equal. In this particular instance, he bought 10% or 9.4% of Twitter and is now on the board and is saying, I'm going to make some changes to Twitter. So he's an activist investor. And a lot of this has to do with the possibility of free speech issues, which free speech in America, again, I've said it in the previous episodes, people really misperceive what freedom of speech is. The freedom of speech has nothing to do with private business telling you to shut up. If a private business doesn't want you saying things, it's well within their rights to tell you to shut up. And it isn't a de facto public square. It is a private square. It is owned by a corporation. It isn't open for everybody to come in there and say whatever they want to. Because even in a public square, you don't have the right to say whatever you want. You can't threaten people. You can't promote treason. You can't do certain things. You definitely can't call out harming someone. So what's this here in chat? Brill, you said, I wonder if I DM Elon and asking him to reach out to me next time he does something like this so I can get on the ground floor. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's something that actually, what happened was, there's certain stopgaps when you're an investor. So you can't buy more than 5% of a stock without notification to the public, because it puts the brakes on a hostile takeover by activist investors. Well, what was announced was almost 10%. And that's a violation of SEC rules. Well, that price difference allowed him to make somewhere around $150 million more, because the moment that it was disclosed that he owns almost 10% of Twitter, the stock jumped $15 or something like that, $20 a share. And he had already had millions of shares. Yeah, so right there it says, during the first few months of 2022, billionaire Tesla CEO Elon Musk quietly spent over $2.6 billion to buy Twitter stock. Yeah, let's click this link. It'll take us over to Business Insider. And they talk about 4 proposals that are taken from Elon Musk's tweets. There's a subsequent article somewhere in the news feed on ohmTown that lists some of the things that he hopes to make changes on Twitter. So it says here, the article's title is Elon Musk promised to, quote, make significant improvements, end quote, as a newly appointed Twitter board member. Here are 4 proposals we expect to see, straight from Musk's own tweets. And this is an article written by Ben Gilbert. So thanks, Ben, for putting it all together. Let's see if it's highlighted. Loosening content moderation. This is bananas, because you can say pretty much anything. What you can't do is outright lie. And that's barely moderated. If you have a big enough following and you say an outright lie, then you're going to get moderated. If you promote violence, you're going to get moderated. If you threaten somebody, you're going to get moderated. But if it's just you or I, and we have 100 people following us, we're invisible to moderation. We will not land on anybody's radar. And even if we did, the moderator would look at us and go, unless we trigger them. Now, like Reddit. I've been on Reddit and I've triggered a mod because I was talking about something and they didn't like what I was talking about. So they shadow banned me. Was it a big deal to me? No. Why? Because first off, you can basically create another account and nobody would know or care unless you really end up on somebody's short list. And it was basically some unpaid, out of control mod. And that's how it is. You've been shadow banned on Twitch? I can't imagine that. My goodness. What did you do? So he wants to loosen content moderation. It's bananas. If it gets any looser, it's going to be able to be uh, you're going to be able to call for anything, do anything, set your army loose. The fact is that Elon Musk can angle his followers towards somebody and they will lash out for him, and he, you know, is beyond arm's reach because it's just the lunatics that are following his implied directive. Algorithm changes. Twitter algorithm should be open source. I don't know. I don't think that that's really relevant. The algorithm shouldn't. It's proprietary and a business secret. It shouldn't be open to the public. It isn't like a voting system. It isn't like an electronic voting system in the United States, which I think should be open source. Everybody within the security sector and the public should be able to sift through voting machine algorithms to make sure that there isn't anything hinky going on. Why? Because it is a public forum. The voting system should not be a private, tightly kept secret because only limited eyes are on it. If it has to do with the general public, then it should be not just open source, but audited by every single security professional to fill the holes. The problem is there's a lot of bad actors that have security chops that may find a bug but not disclose it because the bug bounty will eventually be high enough and they'll be able to cash in on it. Let's see, removing spam bots. Absolutely. Get rid of spam bots. That would be wonderful, but it would probably reduce the number of accounts on Twitter by a great amount. Like other services that created fake users and fake content, Twitter has fake users and fake content that's powered by bots, artificial intelligence, machine learning stuff that responds to other people's tweets and retweets and makes randomized comments about it. And that's too bad you didn't find out. But that's how it was. The only reason why I found out is because I said something somewhere else where that person was a mod as well, and somebody else notified me, hey, this mod is the one that banned you because you were saying something they didn't agree with. But it was couched within a policy violation. So adding an edit button, as long as an edit is documented and publicly can be seen, you can look at the other iterations of the tweet, because you can do whitewashing revisionist crap with an edit button. And I actually watched this happen in real time on Reddit again. A mod logged in and stealth edited somebody else's content, and it didn't flag it as an edited comment. But yeah. So if there's an edit and you have an audit capability related to the edit, that's why you don't have an edit button, because it's a public discourse. And then if you have the ability to edit historically, yep. So the context can change because you change the word yes to the word no, and suddenly everything, all of these comments that fall underneath it, referring to how this is a bad take, suddenly don't make any sense. And you can say, well, I said no, not yes. It's rather absurd, but that's why there's no edit. So let's continue on. Those were the 4 things that Elon Musk wanted or wants to bring based on his own tweets on Twitter. The next article is in the S&P 500 will plunge 11% by the end of 2022 as inflation shock sparks a recession, according to Bank of America. This is in the Hatch Ideas channel. And it says, stocks are in for a world of pain in 2022 as an inflation-induced recession causes a bear market. That's according to Bank of America, which sees the S&P 500 falling below 4,000 later this year. Hawkish Fed now wishes to address issues of wealth inequality and inflation. Starts with overvalued stock market, according to the B of A. Let's click this link. It'll take us over to Business Insider. If you're not into the stock market, if you're not into trading stocks or paying attention to this kind of thing, I urge you to pay attention at least to this, because we are all victim to the machinations of wealth chasing wealth. This particular article, by the way, is over at Business Insider, written by Matthew Fox. And the reason why I say it's wealth chasing wealth is because there's institutional investors, and there are investors that have large sums of money that can buy and sell large quantities of stock, and they can single-handedly, and by they I mean the people that are managing wealthy people's and corporations' money. They have the ability to sway large swaths of the market, and then retail investors, regular Joes like you and I, who might be using Robinhood or some other trading platform, are always following on the heels, because we get our information at a slightly different rate than these other people. Again, it goes back to what happened with Elon Musk. He purchased at a certain price, and then it was disclosed to the public that he had almost 10% ownership in Twitter. And when it was known by the public, when it should have been known at 5%, suddenly everybody found out that he had 10%, and the stock shot up. It isn't, by the way, the highest that the stock has ever been. It went to about 50. I haven't looked at it in the last couple of days, but it saved a purchase. Let's say if 10% was $3 billion, it saved him a large chunk of money, because at $1.5 billion, he would have had to disclose that he owned 5%, then purchased another 5% to get to the 10. That's not what happened. It was entirely purchased at once in stealth. Well, when inflation is coming on board, there are people that have wealth that can extract or mitigate their own losses, but the regular Joes are going to be stuck trying to play catch up as the market becomes, basically, it forms an untenable position for retail. You either cut your losses and sell, or you hang on and hope that it recovers. But small investors are going to suffer more. This here is inflation. And again, I've read more articles. Basically, everything is blaming fuel prices increasing. Yet again, I say they have record profits while raising prices, while blaming oil costs going up during an inflationary time, with the prospects of recession on the horizon. So if it's a recession, that means profits are going to drop. So this time around the world, all of these markets are profiteering off of the turmoil, and the regular Joes are going to suffer. You need to be aware of it, and then you can take steps to mitigate your own losses. But nobody would be out there telling you about this. I'll continue on to the next article. The word in tech. Here's what happens when cops pull over a driverless cruise vehicle. This article here says, it's been a little over 2 months since Cruise started letting the people of San Francisco catch rides on its driverless robotaxis, and one of its cars already had a run-in with police. In the video that's in this link, originally posted to Instagram last weekend, the user captures the awkward and somewhat comical interaction between the San Francisco Police Department and the autonomous vehicle after it's pulled over for not having its lights on. That's interesting. we'll click that link. It'll take us over to The Verge. And it says, in case you were wondering, this article was written by Emma Roth for The Verge. And so here's the video. It says, after stopping the Chevy Bolt turned cruise vehicle, a police officer goes up to its window, tries to unsuccessfully open the door, and starts walking back to his cruiser. The autonomous vehicle begins to drive away in what at first seems like the perfect start to a police chase, but then pulls over and puts its hazards on at a point farther down the road. Police drive up behind the vehicle once again, get out of the car, and then hover around the vehicle as they presumably try to figure out how to turn its headlights back on. Oh, wow. As cruise spokesperson Aaron McClear explained to The Verge, the autonomous vehicle didn't drive away to escape the police. It was trying to find a safer location to pull over in, a move that most human drivers can't get away with so easily. McClear also confirmed that the SFPD pulled over the vehicle for not having its headlights on and says Cruise has since fixed the issue. Well, that's really neat, but those cars can drive in the dark. Obviously, lights are for both the driver's safety and everybody else's safety on the outside. But this is really great. It's interesting that it was not a particularly violent end, because a car taking off from a police vehicle usually results in something a little less happy. This was downright amicable. So neat. I'm sort of glad that it was actually tested. So this article has a tweet in it it's from Seth Weintraub. Welcome to the future. Cop pulls over driverless car because of no lights? ? Then Cruise goes on the lam. Just takes off. That's fun. I like this. I'm glad that nobody got hurt. I'm not sure why it says pot sticker on the side of the Cruise vehicle, but okay. Let's continue on. I've got 3 more articles. We're coming up on an hour, so we're right on time. This is in the Mobile Channel, and it's titled Wind Energy Company to Pay $8 million in Killings of 150 Eagles. The ESI Energy Company pleaded guilty based on the documented, quote, blunt force trauma deaths of golden eagles struck by fast-moving turbine blades, prosecutor said. So we'll click the link. This is an article over at New York Times, written by Eduardo Medina. And I'm looking really for the range. ESI acknowledged that at least 150 bald and golden eagles had died at its facilities since 2012, and that 136 of those deaths were affirmatively determined to be attributable to the eagle being struck by a wind turbine blade. My gosh. The deaths occurred across 50 of the 150 wind farms that the company operates in the United States. The company failed to take steps to protect the eagles or obtain the permits that are necessary when eagle deaths are documented or predicted. The Justice Department said, by not taking these steps, prosecutors said ESI had, quote unquote, gained a competitive advantage. Okay, that's just wonky. I guess the competitive advantage is allowing their blades to keep on spinning. That's interesting. Okay. I mean, I think that it's odd that so many any birds are getting hit by blades that are spinning. I mean, anybody who is, I understand that it's happening, but anybody who's ever seen these birds flying around witnesses just how agile they are. But I guess a blade coming at them at that speed, they don't know what to do with it. And word hasn't gotten out yet that you got to stay away from these things. So it sucks that this is taking place. But I don't know what kind of resolution there can be to birds flying into wind turbines. It's just kind of odd. Put more lights on it within the blade's length itself. Interesting. And this is something else that I'm not sure why it's included. It's almost just kind of thrown in there. The case comes as the bald eagle, the nation's symbol, whose resurgence is considered one of the greatest conservation stories of the 21st century, faces a new threat: lead poisoning. All right. I don't think that has anything to do with the wind energy. It's almost conflating the two. It really does. I mean, it merges the two together because by the end of the article, it says while wind turbines can cause harm, can harm eagles and other birds, they are also an alternative form of energy that is cleaner than fossil fuels. I mean, this is such a convoluted article, but it gets the point across that there is some concern about wind energy and eagles. I don't think that wind energy should stop doing what it's doing, and it should more research should be put into it to find out how to prevent birds from flying around the blades. It seems like they'd be cautious enough to stay away, but I guess not. The next article is over in Smack Talk. Studio display issues prevent some owners from updating their monitors. I don't know if anybody is interested in this kind of thing because my audience may not be interested in paying $1,600 for a display. It's a very nice display, but $1,600 seems like a lot. A number of Apple Studio display owners are having trouble updating their monitors' firmware, with some asked to take their $1,600 screen in for servicing. The Apple Studio display is unusual for a monitor as it uses iOS as its operating system to function. Like other Apple hardware, it can be updated with new firmware, but some users are encountering issues when trying to do so. It's a brand new product, so I am not surprised. I believe this is in reference to the new Studio display. This is an article over at appleinsider.com, written by Malcolm Owen. I didn't get much news today involving science, so today was kind of a slow news day for that. Posts on the Apple support forum reveal a number of people who cannot perform an update of the firmware. In some cases, users see a message: Apple Studio display firmware update could not be completed. Try again in an hour. If the problem persists, contact an authorized Apple service provider. And when your device requires firmware and then fails, you just kind of have to ask yourself, do I want that level of complexity in my monitor? As a user on Apple Insider posts, I cannot ever remember a monitor needing firmware upgrades. Has Apple earned a plug-and-play moniker since 2011? Is it time for a firmware upgrade of senior management? Wow, that's a tough call right there. Going from, I don't think monitors need firmware upgrades to, I think management needs an upgrade. It is weird though. Why would a monitor need upgrading itself? But Apple products are like that. Their cables have intelligent components in the ends. Brodane went and got coffee. Welcome back. I can't drink coffee right now or I'll be up until 5 o'clock in the morning and then I will crash, which is probably not a good thing. Although the longest I've ever stayed up in one fell swoop was 72 hours. And right around the 72-hour mark, I was like really incoherent, I think. So I won't be doing that at this age, that's for sure. I could probably still do it, but I'm not going to do it. So this next article and the last one for today is about gas prices in the US. They dropped 10 cents. That's spectacular, but I don't know what the cause of it is. So it says the average US price of a gallon of gas dropped 10 cents. Now, it isn't, this is for regular grade gas, and it just jumps through the roof as you go up the grades of gas. I don't know if there's going to be much more in this, but it says, according to the survey, the average price of diesel was $5.13 per gallon. There was a time when it was like $1. And at some point in history, all of a sudden, diesel fuel went through the roof. Um, and maybe I wasn't paying attention to it. I had a discussion with, I always say compatriot, but with somebody that I work with about the fact that it just didn't seem to me like prices were increasing steadily over the last 2 years. I went back and looked at my data and looked at the data that's available. I did not see prices creeping up at all. I saw prices jump dramatically since November and of last year, and then this year they went through the roof, just almost like vertical. Maybe not vertical. I might be a little hyperbolic. When you're looking at the grand scheme of things, it just kind of jumped up. But to me, I don't think that it was something that was just slowly creeping up. And now prices across the board are just astronomically high. And unfortunately, I predict that they're going to continue. So from mortgage rates to food, prices are going to keep on creeping up. In fact, I spent a tremendous amount on fast food today for 3 people, more than I have ever paid for fast food. And I was astonished that it was that high. Yeah, I don't know how to say it other than that. So this will continue to happen in the United States. It's going to happen elsewhere as well. As I said in a previous episode, which I tend to say this phrase a lot because I don't know when people are going to stumble into this VOD or this stream or the podcast or on YouTube. But I want to make it known that in previous episodes, I have made similar statements, observations, things that maybe you might want to go and look at or listen to. And that is that back a year ago, a CEO of a food manufacturer came out of the blue and said the days of cheap food are over. And then it was left in the dust. Nobody addressed it in media. Nobody talked about it in podcasts. Nobody talked about it online. Nobody really discussed it. And I wasn't streaming at the time. I wasn't doing anything at all other than what I do every day. And that's one of the motivators of why I started streaming, is because I wanted to talk with more people about things that are happening around the world, not just in the United States. But it would allow me to get a greater perspective of basically humanity. I mean, we're all in this hot mess together, and there's different perspectives. So, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, the United States, we're losing all of our freedoms and this and that and the other. And I say, look at the rest of the world. We have a tremendous amount of freedoms. And then look at people that are in other countries where you're sitting there saying that they're not free. And let me tell you, they're free too. They just have a different context, but they're just as free as us here in America. There are certain contexts that are different naturally, but you won't be talking to many people in other countries and go, oh, we're being oppressed. But I can tell you that there are certain people that are still being oppressed, but I don't hear anybody chanting that we should be like that. It's really these self I'm having a hard time trying to encapsulate this as a cogent thought, because it's the antithesis of the way that I think. They're cherry picking what they want to cherry pick so that their outrage is justified, and it really isn't. the price of oil is increasing because people are trying to recoup their profits that they lost over the last 2.5 years instead of lowering their margins and softening the blow. This is profiteering. This is greed. This is not uncertainty in the Ukraine Russia situation. Um, there are providers of all of this oil that could soften the blow, but they chose not to because of the issue with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. They are literally saying, "Oh, goody! It's going to be the ability to raise our price is a good thing because the supply is constrained, and the whole purpose of a business is to generate revenue, even if it does pretty much crush a large number of people." Because the fuel is the beginning. It's the leading indicator that I follow now. If the price of oil goes up, the price of gas goes up, the cost of delivery of products, the price of manufacturing goes up. From there on up, everything increases, and it increases layer after layer because everybody has to make their margin. Nobody is lowering their profit margin except some mom and pop shops. So therein lies the problem. The people that are setting the price are pricing it with a sociopathic bent. They don't care that society is going to suffer because they're going to get theirs. Everybody else will suffer. Um, I know it's not just me. I've been hearing about it now from other people. Um, some of them are actually in the press now talking about this. Some of them are on late night TV here in the States talking about this. So I think that I'm on the right track. I hope that you watching this are or listening to this, if you're listening to the podcast, you uh, like this angle of things. This is how I think about things. So I hope that you tell a friend and come back to Twitch or follow me wherever I am, YouTube, podcasts. I'm over on Spotify, like I said a couple of days ago. I'm over on Google Play, etc., etc. But come on back to Twitch. That's where I want to be so that I can interact with y'all and come and chat. Brilding can't carry me like this all the time. Right, Brill? I need to put you on this as my co-host. I'll put you right up there. You want to be on screen? Okay, so this is the end of the show, and this is the time where I drag everybody back to the very front page of ohmTown, hit the link, and it refreshes and gives you a whole new mess of articles. Some you're going to dig, some you're not. But if you sign in, you can make your own comments on ohmTown as a citizen of ohmTown, and I will, once it starts happening, I'll even bring your comments into the show, and hopefully you'll be in my chat and willing to talk, because make no bones about it, I am interested in opposing views, and I respect that view. What I will challenge, though, is outright fabrications and misinformation, just as much as I want you to challenge my preconceived notions of how things are, but it needs to be backed up and it needs to be discussed in a manner that is conducive to discussion. No yelling, no name calling, no blaming this person when it's just not possible to blame one person unless you can actually point to the policy or procedure or whatever. It's context matters. Context matters at ohmTown. That is a fundamental belief that everybody should follow. And the truth is always somewhere between perception and the hyperbolic other side, wherever you might be. It's somewhere in between two ends of a spectrum. So with that in mind, I want to thank you all. And this is pretty neat. After this is the 100th episode, and I'm watching things slowly grow, but I really need that right there to go up. I need people to follow me here. But I don't run around and tell people. So please feel free to cheerlead for me. I don't tell people out in public. I don't wear a shirt, and I don't set off flares or fly a drone that has a banner behind it saying go visit ohmTown.com. Oh, and swing by Twitch. Um, uh, I can tell my clients, this is what you do. But I feel weird following my own advice because it feels like uh, I'm selling myself, and I don't know what it is about me, but I don't ask for things. But here now, after 100 episodes, I'm really looking for this message to get out and to motivate people to come to Twitch. So tell a friend, please. I'm not talking about you building. Okay, anyway, enough of me. Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow. I'm not sure if this will actually play for you because, well, it's a little complicated, but we'll see if this works. I'm not actually gonna hang up, but I'm gonna end my recording. So hang out for a second.